Hi everybody, this is Scott Dudley from SaaS Startup Stories, and today my special guest is Jeff Coyle, who's based in Georgia. Jeff is the co-founder, Chief Strategy Officer at MarketMuse, which is an AI content intelligence and strategy platform that transforms how you research, plan, and craft your content. Welcome to the show, Jeff. You ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it and looking forward to our discussion today.
You're welcome. All right, let's get straight into it. Let's start off with your background and what initially got you interested in starting a SaaS company in the beginning.
Absolutely. Well, I went to school at Georgia Tech in Atlanta for computer science, and my first job out of school was actually when I was a junior. I started as an intern at a startup called Knowledge Storm, and we were selling leads to software companies really before anyone was even thinking about content. So we were convincing large B2B tech companies to have content on their websites, and these were white papers, brochureware, getting anything we could online so that we could market and promote and syndicate their content. And I was, quickly involved in, promotion and kind of the earliest days of search engine optimization, really working to build a lead engine. We were generating millions of leads per month by the time we were acquired in 2007. So I was doing conversion rate optimization, A/B multivariate testing, and everything related to usability. And my background was in computer science and usability. So when we were acquired in 2007 by TechTarget, who's one of the largest lead generation companies, who's also a publisher, I was 100% focused on lead gen. And I never had anyone who was writing content. So for the next a little bit over 7 years, almost 8 years, I was working with an editorial team on staff, with 300 editors, 1,000 content contributors, one of the best, writing teams in the world. Really had to live through all those very painful processes of creating content, ideation, what to update, and learning from an editorial point of view, and then kind of meshing that with my lead gen, CRO, and search engine optimization point of view. The reason why I tell the story that way is because I've been doing this about 21 years, and at the end of that time period, I met my co-founder, and I saw the first versions of MarketMuse, and it took some of the workflows that were really painful that I was working on manually,
I see.
And it automated those. So I was the practitioner. I'm the subject matter expert. And he had taken this and automated it. I immediately implemented it at TechTarget, and even the earliest versions of the software were dramatically successful. I was completely inspired that there was more that could be done with artificial intelligence just based on that initial experience, and quintupling traffic to this one section of one website on this test plan we did. So then when I left TechTarget to go work as a consultant for a private equity firm, my co-founder reached out and said, "Hey, Jeff, you're the only one that knows how all of these workflows work, the hard way. Can you come on as a late co-founder?" And I said, "What's a late co-founder?" And he said, "It means you're not going to get paid for a really long time." And I'm like, "All right, let's go." But yeah, that's basically the story. And yeah, Aki is our president, and I'm working as our chief strategy officer still today. And thousands of customers, and just rolling. It's very, very exciting. And yeah, that was September-ish of 2015.
Okay, excellent. That's a cool story. All right. So did you borrow VC money to launch your SaaS company, or did you bootstrap it instead? Tell us a bit about how you actually got MarketMuse off the ground in the beginning.
It's a cool story. The decision, I said, "Oh yeah, I'll jump off the bridge," right? But also, what actually happened was, and I don't tell this story that much, I went to Boston, and that's where I live in Georgia. My co-founder's in Boston at the time, and I met him and kind of hung out with him. And when I met him, I crashed in his apartment. The first weekend, on a futon. I think actually he took the futon. I think I crashed on his bed. And looked at some spreadsheets. And I mean, he had done what he had already done. We had some early evangelist customers, a few customers, very frugally. It was extremely inspiring. We had the vision to go raise some some angel investors at the
Oh,
time.
okay. Yeah.
And we closed actually our first significant angel investor that weekend, basically that week.
Ah, okay.
Basically like marched me in the door, I had to throw my suit on and talk to these folks about
Yeah.
the vision. Um,
Yeah.
and then we did, for a number of years, we did rolling angel investing and really just continued to, fund the money with enough to continue
Yeah.
on. We did take a pretty significant seed round from institutional VC. And then since then we had an extension and have done some other creative financing. But yeah, we're definitely funded by venture capital and some other other methods, really getting us to where we have gotten today. So we're technically around, if you wanted to classify it, around right before a pre-A. So if we were to raise another round, it would be a full institutional A round.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how'd you go about getting your first 100 customers? That's always a good story.
Lots of blood, a lot of sweat. So one thing we have at our disposal is our technology works really well. We also are, we know it. We know the game. We know the workflows. So I'd say the first customers were done really sales led. So I really worked with my co-founder, and he was focused at the time a lot on the development side. And a little bit later in our time with the company, we kind of flipped, and he was focused on fundraising and the vision for the company, and I was focused on product. But we've done quite a few roles. But we really did personal networks, and then just built out a really great base of customers who really got it. And then we started to create our online engine. Being a content intelligence software technology, we eat our own dog food. We write great content, we crush it. We generate thousands and thousands of leads, and we were doing this immediately upon getting our voice out there with our content. We created some really successful viral content. I was very active on the speaking circuit from day one because I had been for so many years already. So we created a very significant wave. I'd say that our first 100 customers, we probably got them before the market was ready, frankly, because it was such a novel technology. Nobody was optimizing content with technology at the time. Nobody was getting content planning advice with artificial intelligence, in 2015, early 2016. But the teams we were working with were visionary. They were on the front bleeding edge. So these customers were like aching for someone to solve these problems. And once we got our voice out there, the leads started flowing in, and we've been able to keep our lead flow so dramatic that we've actually pivoted to go down market into self-service and transition from sales-led growth to product-led growth last year, because we looked at each other in December of 2019, or actually quite before that, about August of 2019, we said, hey, we're getting 3,000 inbounds a month, but we're only selling, we're selling to mid-market to enterprise. And so a lot of these folks, we didn't have a product for them. So we decided to branch out and build it for them. So the first 100 customers were blood and sweat, but it allowed us to fund, creating an inbound marketing, machine. So.
Okay. Yeah, if you go back about 8 years or so, I can remember using those article spinning softwares, which were absolutely shocking. So obviously what you guys, have created is completely different to those sort of cheap little methods. And they never worked anyway. So yeah.
No, they didn't. And template driven, the dream of, we have our new product line, which, we can get into a little bit more about explicitly, but with the technology behind natural language generation, even in the past year, has changed dramatically. Even in the past 4 months, it's changed dramatically. And we've been working on this, for over 2 years. And, we did a market check on natural language generation last year and said, gosh, it's not going to be there in an economical way. But then we made a few advancements and innovations of our own, and we realized that we could build all of this ourselves. So our newest product, MarketMuse First Draft, is a completely new branch of AI that we're innovating in. Which, the reason why I brought it up is because you said spinner, and it's the opposite of a
It's
spinner.
the
It's really
opposite.
it's
Okay.
really generation, and then all of our other offerings really get into those kind of planning and what should I create and what should I update and why does this connect with an expert? I mean, the spirit of what MarketMuse is if I were an expert and I were covering this topic comprehensively, what would I cover? And how would I cover it? What questions would I answer? What would I link together inside my own site? And, now we have the ability to go from just, data and prioritization, but also implementation and inspiration for implementation. So we can give your writer an automatic outline. And
Right. Okay.
now we can give them recommended draft chunks of content in a logical narrative that they approve. So it can really advance their ability to execute content at scale. So when you're stuck if you're a writer, it's kind of stinks because you're sitting there and you have outsourced opportunity. You have to manage them. You're almost like a project manager. If you were doing it yourself, you'd knock out, 5 articles. They'd be great because you're the expert, but you want to knock out like 40 this month. So we're giving editors and writers the ability to multiply their subject matter expertise, while also insights of if I were to update these articles or they would be successful. And here's how to update them. I had a blind spot. My writer missed a section. So we're giving insights like that, and allowing people to do a whole lot more with a lot less pain, frankly. Not a lot less people, but a lot less pain, and getting a lot more out the door. So
So just to clarify, it doesn't actually write the content, but it gives you an outline. Does it? And tells you exactly what you need to be writing about to achieve the end result.
That's our core technology, and that's the ones that have been most adapted. But however, our new product, MarketMuse First Draft, does write draft content. So it actually does write content. We're the first ever natural language generation platform.
Okay.
That's built for content marketers. There's another solution which you may have heard of. There's about 5 or 6 majors in the field. It's us. Microsoft is licensing a product by OpenAI called GPT-3. Which is innovating in the space. We're very comparable as far as advancements in AI to them. However, what we do is very tuned, focused on building against your guidelines versus theirs is very general. And then the other offerings in the space are very template driven. So they, if you've ever been to like a financial site and like every stock page has a template, and they're powered by a database, like that's the kind of stuff. And there's like automated insights, Narrative Science, and Aria are 3 other firms which are doing that side of it, natural language generation. Us and Microsoft are the 2 really innovating, us and OpenAI, resold by Microsoft, are the ones really innovating in generation. And so we're in a bit of another bleeding edge situation where there's, when it's just you and Microsoft, things are a little bit weird, right?
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Yeah. All right. So how many employees do you have right now?
About 40 employees.
Okay.
So we do a lot with a little.
It's growing. Yeah. It's not tiny, but it's not huge either. It's sort of mid-sized. Right. Yeah. Yep. All right. So we've already covered this a little bit. What's the product roadmap for the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, in 2 weeks, we launch into production MarketMuse First Draft, which is our natural language generation platform. What we're also launching in is very relevant for your audience, I feel, is we are actually we're bringing ROI to the platform. So for the first time, you're going to be able to see the return on investment by topic and by page. So you can actually see like this page contributes this much value. So sometimes you can bring it to my site. So now what about this little cluster of content all about, maybe it's all about A/B multivariate testing, right? I have 20 articles in this cluster. How much do they as a group contribute? Maybe I need to know who my most powerful pages are. well, my weaker ones, maybe I need to level up my weaker ones. So I'm actually putting dollars amounts onto that. So those are exciting innovations in the next, couple of weeks. Yeah, you said 12 to 18 months, but in the future, what I think we'll be focused on will be making, right now our workflows are very, they're very singular. You do this workflow over here, you do that one over there. We're going to bring them together into one unified research experience. And then also continue to refine our language model for generation, as well as for planning. So what I would love to have happen is you're logging in and MarketMuse is telling you, here's the best 3 or 4 articles that you should write today. And then, do you want us to execute them? Kind of like a
cool.
planning assistant, and then saying, hey, you want to draft? Okay. There you go. And we're not that far away from that. We're so ahead of what people are used to that we're
that's what I'm
trying
thinking.
to market things that, people will buy and not think are completely crazy, because they actually work.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Today, but there's change management. There's people who don't believe it can work. And then they work with us and it does. And it's like, whoa, you told me to go update this page and you told me to add a section about, some concept. We're writing about content marketing strategy. You said, hey, you missed buyer personas. Go write a paragraph about buyer personas. I did it. And now this page doubled in traffic. Like, that's what we hear every day. And, people don't believe that type of decision support or that type of strategic support exists and can be automated with AI. They think it's all subjective. And
it makes sense. Yeah. So you've already mentioned sort of like you guys eat your own dog food. Sort of the next question is about the most successful customer acquisition channels. So I'm sort of curious if you guys still bother with pay-per-click advertising or if it's just content only to generate leads.
I'm pretty proud of this part of it, but not because we don't know. I managed paid. I was doing AdWords when it was mail spreadsheets and buy remnant CPM. Before there was an interface. And that's a thing, right? I was trying to buy it any way I could at the earliest days of AdWords.
Okay.
But we don't buy. We don't have to.
You don't have to.
That's really exciting. We do buy for ABM, for account-based marketing strategies. And when we have predictable return on investment from particular word sets, but we don't rely on it. It's very, we do it for opportunistic situations. But what we do have is we have a really strong, Elizabeth Irvine, who leads marketing for our VP of marketing, really takes a multi-channel approach. And it's very exciting what we've been able to do. We even with live events and now heavily virtual, that's a huge channel for us. I'm, always advocating, I love solving. I'm passionate about solving problems in this space. So I'm out there, doing anything I can to just give advice and such all the time. We have a number of communities. We have one of the largest Slack communities for content strategists called the Content Strategy Collective. We also are, have a significant social presence driven by personal brands as well as our professional brand. And then email marketing and nurturing are big channels. But, as you'd imagine, the cornerstone of MarketMuse's success is our organic search performance.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was expecting. Yeah,
exactly right. We also, I will say, we also have a huge win with nurturing as well as some more interesting pursuit that we do. So we use Drift. We also use Mad Kudu for predictive lead scoring. So if someone comes to our site and the Mad Kudu predicts that they are an ideal person for a particular offering that we have, everyone in our business who needs to know knows they're on the site. So we have really, really significant funnel management and pursuit technology in our stack so that we know that, Scott's on the site. He works here, go get him. So.
Okay. Excuse me. All right. What are the most common mistakes that inexperienced SaaS founders make, in your opinion and in your experience?
Gosh, so many mistakes. I mean, I make so many mistakes and have made so many mistakes. I think that a uh, SaaS founders, where I see them making mistakes, is copying. A lot of SaaS founders believe that they're going to get by copying other companies, and providing no additional value.
Okay.
And that's probably the most significant mistake. You can get to a particular point by copying competitors or being too focused on competitors. Um, and you might get lucky here and there. But I think you really have to know that what's novel, what's differentiated value. And differentiated value is not just about price. If you're just
Mm,
copying and pushing the coattails and
yeah.
trying to differentiate between price, there will become a time where that person that you're copying or otherwise, or somebody else that's innovating, is just going to walk by you, or the person who you're copying is going to price you out of the market because they're going to have innovated while you were trying to get by on a cheaper cheaper offering. You might be able to build a nice little business, but I've seen most people fail and give up as a result of being derivative.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So what about churn? How do you approach reducing churn and retaining paying customers?
Gosh, it's hard. It's definitely something that is an never ending. It's a never ending process for us.
Yeah.
It's because of that. Really, the big focus has to be on return on investment.
Yep.
If you're in a third or fourth level disconnection to direct value, it's about, does your business, so does your SaaS solution directly influence a monetizable KPI? If you are one order or two orders away from that ROI, you got to do everything you can to focus on that.
Mm,
If you're directly selling to the decision maker, I mean, for a long time, we were selling, our average deal size and entry point was around $18,000 a year. So we were often selling to a decision maker who wasn't the end user. So if you're selling to a buying team,
mm,
you have to have a great a customer success program. If you're selling to an end user, it's a completely different story. Now we do both, right? So you have to have customer
okay.
success
Yeah.
on one end, and you have to have amazing educational experiences, relatable community-based outreach. You've got to have, customer advocates. I mean, we have a person at Market Muse whose role is specifically every self-serve user. She's their advocate. She's their internal advocate at Market Muse. And
Okay.
that's really something that we focus on. So it's depending on your price point, depending on who you sell to and how that connects with who the user is. The answer is think like the customer, know the customer, or advocate for the customer, and make sure you connect to ROI.
Yeah. That's obviously the most important thing. Yeah.
For sure.
So
And in content that's hard because
that's true.
not everybody knows the value of the content they create. They
Well,
don't know the costs.
I'd say that 99% of people would have no idea on
No,
that.
no,
So yeah.
not at all. And they don't know the costs. They
Yeah.
think that because they can go buy content at N cents a word, that's how much content costs. It doesn't. It has overhead. Every time you look at it, you edit it. If you lose a customer because they don't convert after reading articles, that content actually has sunk cost.
Oh yeah.
And so the true cost of content is in the bounce rate, it's in the lost customers, it's in
Mm,
the non-converts, and no one truly calculates the cost of bad content. The cost of bad content is outrageously outsized, tens of thousands of dollars a page for the average SaaS company. And
yeah.
all they're thinking about is, oh, $100 a page because I can buy that
Yeah.
off a content network, and it's baloney. I mean, it's
It's
10,000.
all
It's so
hidden
much
in.
sunk cost. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all hidden in the background. Yeah.
It's not just about how much time you spend editing it. It's that opportunity missed. And every month that goes by, especially if you're a SaaS company, that
Mm,
you didn't seize that opportunity, that's your burn times that content, because you didn't win. You didn't win that month.
yeah.
And so, time is of the essence with bad content, and you're just, shooting yourself in the foot if you're publishing things that you're not proud of.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm
All
a
right.
bit passionate about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What are your favorite online tools and platforms that you use to run your business?
I mentioned one of them, but Madkudu, Madkudu, I think is extremely innovative. Anytime you could ever buy stock in Madkudu, you can't. They're obviously early. I would that
Okay.
predictive lead scoring using machine learning. I'm also, you know, gosh, there's quite a few other tools and platforms that we use, but I love Full Story as well. I'll mention them.
Yeah.
It's a really beautiful solution. And it's like having a DVR on your website, but with a lot of features that some of the more lower priced offerings don't have. So if you really, really want to get into segmentation, Full Story is the jam.
That's like an advanced CRO tool, isn't it? I've seen it.
Oh, it is. It is. It's
Yeah.
an advanced, extremely advanced, but you can,
Yep.
you know, it's very, very powerful if you have it in tandem with like a Pendo, which we do. We use Pendo and Gainsight for customer success. So Pendo, Gainsight, Full Story, and Parlor, which you may not have heard of. It's a feedback management system. Those four solutions are it's a weaponized stack, I like to say. When you got
Awesome
those,
combination. Yeah.
they are nasty.
Okay. Nice. All right. So with an eye to the future, what are you curious about or researching right now regarding software or content?
Oh gosh. I mean, I am heads down on natural language processing, natural language generation, innovation. But one thing I'm thinking a lot about is we're going to launch a data offering as well this year, and how to best position a data offering. And so I'm in the process of researching, everybody that's released, API products in a very sexy and exciting way. Because what I don't want to do is put out an API offering that just feels like it's, bits and bytes. So
Okay.
I'm in the process of really researching best practices for releasing a data product.
Nice. All right. So just to wrap up, where can people go to find out more about Market Muse?
You can email me direct, jeff@marketmuse.com. Our blog is a content strategy, just, how-to guide effectively. We even have a page, I think it's about 20,000 words, called the Content Strategy Crash Course. I do 2 content strategy webinars per month. There's a great archive of those as well. And if you go check those things out, I'm also on Jeffrey_Coyle on Twitter, and I'm very active on LinkedIn. So please reach out via email or one of those channels if you have any questions.
Perfect. All right, then. Thanks for being on the show, Jeff. I appreciate your time. That was awesome.
All right. Thanks again, Scott. It's been a pleasure.
Cool.